What is up, you guys? Welcome back. If you're new here, I make videos about hot stocks, dividend stocks, as well as options. So if you guys are interested in those, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. But in today's video, we're going over Hyliion and if they're a good stock to add to your portfolio. So starting off and just taking a look at their stock price over the last few months. Back in around mid-June is when they announced that they're merging with this SPAC, which is Tortoise Acquisition. And a SPAC is a special purpose acquisition company. They essentially raise money to bring a company public, so they have publicly traded stocks. And this is kind of Hyliion's goal for the near future, which is why they're merging with Tortoise Acquisition. After the merger, which is in Q3, and it should be by the end of September, Hyliion will then be trading as Hyliion Holdings Corp with the ticker symbol HYLN, rather than the current ticker of SHLL, which is Tortoise's ticker symbol. So just looking at their past few months, right after the merger was announced in mid-June, they spiked up. They spiked here around 19 bucks or so. And then quite a few people made videos about them and they continued riding the wave up. They spiked all the way up to over $33, and now they've kind of tapered all the way back down. But I definitely wouldn't be surprised when they spike back up once this merger happens, which should happen by the end of September. So in today's video, I'm going to go over what Hyliion does and what their objective is for their business, as well as some of the numbers that they expect to hit in the future, and also a comparison on how they compare with both Tesla and Nikola. And one last thing before we get started, I just want to mention that Hyliion does not currently make trucks, which is a common misconception. And a lot of other YouTubers are saying that they're making trucks, but they're just making powertrains right now. And they're making these powertrains for current semis that are on the road, so they just swap them out and put their powertrain in current semis. They are planning on making their own truck, and that will be released by the end of 2021. And they'll hopefully begin production in May of 2021. But currently, they only make powertrains. They're not making trucks yet. So just keep that in mind when we're going through things. They're not a truck company yet, and they're not making trucks. So here I have pulled up the summary of Hyliion. This was put out in June, so kind of when the merger was announced with Tortoise Acquisition. And it says here that Hyliion is an industry leader developing technology and electrification solutions to transform the environmental impact of Class 8 vehicles. So they're trying to make everything more green with a main focus on semi-trucks. That's what they're referring to with Class 8 vehicles. And Hyliion's mission is to be the leading powertrain provider of electrified solutions for the commercial vehicle industry. So they want to be the new standard for trucking. They want to bring trucking to an all-new perspective and show that trucking can be clean and not have to put out all this pollution like standard semi-trucks and diesel trucks are currently doing. They want to reduce emissions as well as lowering the total cost of ownership for trucking, which is pretty big because trucking right now is a pretty expensive business, and if they can reduce that cost, even just by a little bit, trucking companies as well as the companies who are using these trucks are going to be saving a lot more money. And if they can tap into this market with their powertrains, which they already have in some semis right now, so we'll go over that in a little while, but if they can tap into this $800 billion market and be the standard for trucking, they'll definitely be very successful, and I would not be surprised to see them as the standard for trucking within the next few years. So here on the left is their powertrain that they're currently using, and this is already being used in some semis that are on the road today, and they've already racked up over 2 million miles, and they're recording data so they can see how it is working and how things are running with all this collected data. And they're only going to be implementing more of these powertrains as we move along in the future here. They're adding more and more all the time. And not only that, but if you look on the right here, we have the Hypertruck ERX, which they're making in 2021, I believe in May. And they already have 1,000 binding pre-orders from different customers. That essentially means that they have to buy these trucks under contract. Also, to pre-order these trucks, each truck has a $5,000 down deposit that the company has to put down. So not just anybody can go and reserve a truck for in the future when they finally make them. Unlike Nikola, there's no down deposit, or at least at the time of recording this, there's no deposit necessary. So anybody could go and pre-order a truck from Nikola, although I'm not suggesting you go and do that, but it shows that Hyliion kind of has their stuff together because they're showing that they're more serious And they're also much more ahead of the curve when it comes to getting things rolling. They already have powertrains implemented into trucks on the road today. When you compare this to like other companies, for example, Tesla and Nikola, Tesla also is planning on bringing out their semi by 2021, but it's not really a guarantee because it says here 2021 plus. So it could be delayed and it might not come out in 2021. That's just kind of their estimate, where the Hypertruck ERX is pretty much guaranteed to come out next year. Also Nikola, they're not coming out until 2023 or later. So the ERX and Hyliion are already way ahead of the game. Not only are they ahead of the game, but if we just take a look at the prices and the cost of ownership for one of these Hyliion ERXs, or even just their current powertrain, they definitely have a much higher savings rate compared to all their competitors. If we compare just the powertrain to the diesel, we can see that the upfront cost is slightly higher, about $25,000 higher, but that's likely because they have to install it and it costs labor to have this powertrain installed. But then if we look at the 7-year total cost, you're pretty much saving about $58,000 on the 7-year fuel cost. And then another key part is the 7-year total payload lost or gained. And it says that the powertrain for the Hyliion truck would lose about $6,000 over 7 years. And the best explanation I have for this is that because the Hyliion truck can't haul as big of a payload, it would lose out on that much money because of less payload over those years. But even so, you're losing out on $6,000 over 7 years, but you're gaining so much more than that. Because we can just look at the totals for both a diesel as well as the powertrain from Hyliion, and it's nearly a $30,000 savings over 7 years, or 6% savings versus a normal diesel. And then if we take a look at the ERX, which will be kind of a super truck, they call it the Hypertruck, and I can see why. I mean, just looking at the numbers, even compared to the powertrain they're currently making, the ERX blows everything out of the water. The only thing that they aren't top of the line on is the upfront cost of the vehicle, because Tesla has them beat by about $20,000, but they still beat Nikola, and they also beat both Tesla and Nikola in the 7-year total fuel cost. They only beat Tesla by about $3,500 or so, but if we look at Nikola, their 7-year cost for fuel is $350,000. That's over $250,000. You're almost getting to $500,000 in fuel cost over 7 years. There's really no savings by using the Nikola truck. Even compared to a diesel, the diesel is only $300,000. So you're spending more going with Nikola than you would with normal diesel, as well as a higher upfront cost for a Nikola compared to a normal diesel. But this video is not just about Nikola. So if we look at the total cost here of all three trucks, the ERX versus Nikola and Tesla, they have a savings of 35%, where Nikola has a loss of about 48% and Tesla has a loss of about 1%. So if they can get this Hypertruck ERX on the road, this will be kind of the new standard for trucking, at least in my opinion, because with all these savings, there's almost no way that companies will say no to buying these Hypertrucks for their lineup of semi-trucking. Besides just the total cost of ownership over 7 years or so, if we look at the total fuel costs as well, you can see just how far ahead Hyliion is, because theirs is the RNG and the CNG fueling, which is about $1 for the equivalent of a gallon of diesel, where a normal electric vehicle right now is just over $7, and that would be your Tesla truck. And then hydrogen is almost $12 for the equivalent of 1 gallon of diesel. So this chart also shows the future predictions of what costs will be. And it shows that hydrogen will be about $3 per diesel gallon equivalent. Electricity will be almost $2, and RNG and CNG will still stay at $1. So the prices for Hyliion are already what they're going to be in the future. They have the best pricing for fuel already, and they'll have the best pricing in the future as well. And then the current infrastructure, there's already 729 RNG and CNG stations in the US. If you compare that to hydrogen, there's less than 10, and there's also less than 10 electric fueling stations. And I think this must be referring to just for semi-trucks, because they would take obviously a lot longer to recharge than a normal like Tesla car. So this must be referring just to charging stations specifically for semis. But you can see they already have way more than both hydrogen and electric. And the cost to build the equivalent of 729 stations for hydrogen would be almost twice the cost of electricity at $12 billion. And the electric stations would cost about $7 billion, where the RNG and CNG stations are already built. And there's also way more when you look over the world as a whole, because just checking out like South America here, there's 5,500 of these. And in Asia and Europe as well, there's a very high number. So Hyliion could take their business worldwide and they would have a lot of success because they have these stations everywhere across the world. Unlike hydrogen and electric stations, there's not many of them. There's less than 10 in the US alone. And then another thing, if we take a look at the carbon emissions, the Hyliion truck is actually carbon negative, which means it's actually good to drive this truck. It's actually better for the environment to drive it than to not drive it. So it's better than zero emissions. So my understanding of how RNG and CNG work is they take things like methane, which are produced on farms and stuff by cows, and then they use this as fuel, which somewhat helps filter out the methane as compared to if it was just released into the atmosphere by farms and by cows. So by harnessing it and then using it as fuel, it sort of filters it, if that makes sense. And so far, this Hyliion super truck or Hypertruck, it's looking very good, especially as the standard for trucking, because they are setting all these goals and they have all these numbers that they're going to hit with this truck that their competitors aren't really coming close to. We can just take a look at their range. They have a 1,300 mile range as compared to a Tesla at 500 and the Nikola truck at 750. They're nearly double Nikola and nearly 3 times Tesla. And when a truck has to stop a lot less, they're going a lot farther, saving money because they're taking less stops, meaning they can bring their payload wherever they need to go quicker. Because I don't know if you know, but stopping and filling up a semi-truck isn't super speedy. They take a while. So if you can go twice as far without having to fuel up, that really gives you an edge over your competition. And after range is their payload. Their payload is at 53,000. And you compare that to a normal diesel, and a normal diesel is about 51,000. So again, higher than the rest. Nikola's at 48,000 and Tesla's at 43,000. And this isn't as dramatic as it looks. They don't show the entire chart. So it looks like their payload is like 3 times that of Tesla, but they're only about 20% more because the chart starts at 40,000 and only goes up to 55,000. But they still have a greater payload than both Tesla and Nikola. So it's just another added bonus, another edge over both Nikola and Tesla. And then their refuel time only takes 10 minutes, which is equal with Nikola. So there's not really an edge there. But compared to a Tesla, which is 30 minutes plus, that's a third of the time. And then their 0 to 60 with a full load is 20 seconds, which is tied with Tesla, but 10 seconds faster than Nikola. So they're only tied on a couple things, but then they outperform in both range and payload. With the current Hyliion situation too, because they're only producing powertrains as of now, their current target customers like UPS, Amazon, Walmart, FedEx, all these companies, they don't have to buy a whole fleet of trucks like they would with Nikola or Tesla, because they can just implement this new powertrain into the trucks that these companies already have. So something else that's kind of cool is that Hyliion actually has customer reviews here, and based on one customer from the US and Canada, they estimate that they save $15,000 per year per truck in fuel costs by using the Hyliion system. That's just crazy numbers, because a lot of these big retailers like Walmart and UPS and all these guys, they have a lot of trucks on the road, and if they're saving $15,000 per year with each truck, these companies are really going to be saving a lot of money. Here's kind of a timeline as well of when the Hypertruck will likely be in effect and when they'll be producing the majority of them. So right now we're in 2020 and they currently have a demo truck as well as developing and testing. And then by the end of Q3 of 2021, they're going to finish production design and development, as well as implementing and testing a whole fleet of ERXs. And then by about mid-2022, they're going to be commercializing the ERX, making it more widespread, as well as producing a larger volume of these trucks by the end of 2022. So this kind of gives you a somewhat rough estimate of how they're going to be producing these trucks and when they'll be hitting the roads. But you can expect by the end of 2021 to start seeing these trucks on the road. And here are some of the juicy financials that everybody's kind of curious about. So right now in 2020, they don't have any profit because they're not really into the meat of their sales. They want to be producing these ERXs, and that will generate the majority of their revenue. So right now they're not at a profit. But by the end of 2021, they expect to have $8 million in revenue, with $2 million of that being profit, by selling 300 units. And then if we fast forward to 2024, they expect to have a revenue of around $2 billion, with a profit of over $700 million. And this is kind of crazy because their margins from 2021 are expected to be about 22%. And then in 2024, they're going to be about 35%. So it looks like everything's only going up from here for Hyliion. Just keep in mind, these are estimates based on the trucks that they have currently been implementing their powertrains into. So if they can hit these numbers by 2024, they're going to be in a pretty good spot. And investors who put some money into Hyliion now will have quite a bit more money when 2024 rolls around. So I just want to kind of recap everything we've kind of gone over here, just in case you guys forgot anything, or if you skipped around or anything. So they have the lowest total cost of ownership out of all their competitors, and they're the only electric net carbon negative solution, which is huge because that means their trucks are actually good to drive for the environment. They also have a very strong customer demand, with 1,000 trucks pre-ordered already, and each truck having a $5,000 down deposit. They also have the most infrastructure and refueling stations out of all their competitors, putting them miles ahead of their competition. And their current powertrain that they're implementing right now is compatible with any Class 8 truck from any manufacturer, as well as there's no additional capital required to get to their volume production. So Hyliion is looking very good, especially compared to Nikola, who seems to be ages behind Hyliion, because Hyliion is planning to put out these trucks by 2021, and we're going to see full production by the end of 2022 or so. So personally for me, I'm not going to be investing in Hyliion, just not until the merger happens, because I want to invest in the new Hyliion Holdings Corp, which will have the ticker symbol HYLN. But after the merger happens, I'm going to be investing probably a large portion into Hyliion and holding it long term. And for me, I'm not really worried if they don't hit their numbers or their predictions and the stock doesn't go up, because I kind of look at it like, if you invest in a company, you should almost figure you're never going to see that money again. So that's just kind of my own advice, but make sure you do your own research before you invest in any companies and know your risk tolerance, because I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not saying you should invest in Hyliion or not, but just make sure you do your own research, because to me, they seem like a very good play, especially long term. I'm very bullish on Hyliion, and I see a lot of future potential for them. So let me know what you guys think of Hyliion, if you have any shares of Hyliion or if you're planning on investing in them. Also, if you guys have any questions or you just want to talk about stocks or investing, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And the last thing I just wanted to mention is, if you guys don't have an account with Webull yet, make sure you sign up with Webull and you'll get 2 free stocks. You get one when you open an account, and you also get one when you deposit $100, and that stock is worth up to $1,400. So it's free money. All you got to do is sign up and deposit some money into the account. But that's all I got for you guys today. So make sure you smash the like button if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe and notification bell. And with that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you back here in the next one.